Hello pop music fans, welcome back to my channel. My name is Allison. Today is a somewhat somber day because today I am discussing Taylor Swift and her rumored breakup from Joe Alwyn. I just want to start at the beginning of this video saying, first of all, my name is Allison. I talk about Taylor Swift, pop music, all that kind of stuff, and my own personal opinions. So if you're not interested in hearing my own personal opinions regarding Taylor Swift and her relationship, this rumor, this speculation as it relates to her song lyrics off of the album Midnights, then this might not be the right video for you. Today I'm going to be revisiting the Midnights album and some of the lyrics on the Midnights album and talk about how it might give us some clues and insight about the unraveling of the 6-year relationship between Taylor and Joe. I'm gonna say one more time, I am a huge Swiftie. I've been a big Swiftie for years and years and years and years. I know Taylor. I know she doesn't necessarily love speculation about her relationships, but also at the same time, she does write songs about her relationship and she knows that this is something that people will discuss. I don't think Taylor would necessarily be offended by the fact that I'm talking about her relationship. Taylor might not herself want to listen to speculation regarding her relationships or past relationships, but that doesn't mean that it is wrong to speak about it as a fan. And if you don't want to hear it, again, this isn't the video for you. It did take me a while to accept that this breakup rumor is likely true. For the first 24 hours or so, I was heavily in denial, but at this point, the articles in the media would have been taken down if it wasn't true, because Taylor's PR team can legally remove something if it's incorrect from the media. But that hasn't happened, which makes me think that it is likely true, and that is why I'm going to discuss it today. So let's get right into talking about Lavender Haze. In hindsight, looking back at the Lavender Haze music video, I remember one of the things that stood out to me about that music video is that Taylor kind of looks bored during the music video. Not bored in a way that she's not enjoying herself, but in a way that she's just kind of used to the same old day in and day out with this person. I'm kind of surprised that for so long I believed Lavender Haze was just a straight up love song. Looking back, in hindsight, it is not. So let's start at the beginning where she says, "Staring at the ceiling with you, oh you don't ever say too much." That kind of gives me some sort of indication about their relationship is simple, it's quiet, and you don't really read into my melancholia. You don't try to examine why I'm sad, you just exist with me, and that's nice. She says, "I feel the lavender haze creeping up on me." In the past, Taylor has used colors to represent relationships. She has said that love is burning red, losing is blue, and true love is golden like daylight. So if you mix together the red and the blue, you might get lavender. Lavender might be between the loving and the losing. Wanting to stay in the lavender haze might be not wanting to move on from the love to the losing and just wanting to stay in the middle where you know that this relationship might not necessarily work out, but you don't want it to end. Taylor says, "All they keep asking me is if I'm gonna be your bride. The only kind of girl they see is a one night or a wife." So that tells me, in hindsight, that this lavender haze is about staying in the middle ground between a casual one-off fling relationship and a marriage. Just wanting to stay in a comfortable, steady, boring in kind of a good way, lavender haze of a long-term relationship. Then in the bridge, Taylor says, "Talk your talk and go viral." That to me says, say what you need to say, it's gonna be big news. I just need this love spiral. Somebody in a good, calm love, I don't know if they would describe it as a love spiral. I think the love spiral is like spiraling out of control, losing the love, ending the love, but she still needs the love. She still wants to stay in the lavender love that is, in a way, destined to fall apart. She says, "Get it off your chest. Tell me what you're feeling." So that's Lavender Haze. I think Lavender Haze is about not wanting to end a relationship that you know doesn't really have a future, but not wanting it to meet its bitter end. Then we move into Maroon, which is another color. Maroon is a dark, dark version of red, which we said is the loving color. But Maroon is a song about having lost that dark red love. She says, I chose you, the one I was dancing with in New York, no shoes, looked up in the sky and it was. This reminds me of King of My Heart, in that they're dancing on the roof with no shoes on. The no shoes also reminds me of Barefoot in the Kitchen from Cornelia Street, which is in New York. So I could see this song not necessarily being about Joe, because I don't think that they had officially broken up at the time the Midnight's album had been released, but I do think that there was probably, both people were probably aware that the relationship was kind of falling apart. I think Maroon is likely about multiple people. I think it's about multiple breakups kind of tied into one song. So I think that some of the references might be to Joe, but at this point that the song was written, I don't think that they were broken up. One line that stands out to me is, carnations you had thought were roses, that's us. Carnations is a flower representing friendship, and roses are a flower representing romance. So if you thought that it was romance, but it was actually friendship, that's a carnation you had once thought was roses. She says, the rubies that I gave up, that means to me that this person, this dark red person, is a ruby. They're valuable, and Taylor had to give them up because it just wasn't something that fit her. She says she wakes with this memory over her, and she says that's a real legacy to leave the relationship, and to leave a legacy. In the next song, Antihero, there's only one reference to a breakup, and that is in the pre-chorus where she says, one day I'll watch as you're leaving, and life will lose all its meaning for the last time. That, again, kind of reminds me of Cornelia Street in If I Ever Lose You, I'll Never Walk Cornelia Street Again. The meaning and the parts of my life that I used to be able to have without you, they're just not the same. I'm going to skip over Snow on the Beach because it is a song about falling in love, which is not the topic that we're talking about today. But we'll also skip over You're on Your Own, Kid, because that's more about Taylor and her relationship with herself and her career. So we're going to skip over that today. Though let me know if you want me to make future videos analyzing more Taylor Swift songs, maybe the rest of this album that I haven't talked about today, or other albums. Let me know in the comments. We're going to move on to Midnight Rain. Midnight Rain is, well, at least was my first favorite song on this album. And this song stuck out to a lot of people right away. A lot of people were kind of debating about who it's about. Some people thought it was about Taylor Lautner. Some people thought it was about Tom Hiddleston. For me, I thought that the song would be about one of Taylor's early loves when she was in high school before she got famous. And to me, that's why she says that she was chasing the fame and wasn't able to be with this person who wanted a bride. In hindsight, yes, it can be about any number of people. Taylor, since Folklore, has written more songs that are simultaneously about several things or about several people, about several situations. So I think in a way, Midnight Rain partially references Joe Alwyn, because I think that the two at some point had planned on getting married. If we look at the Lover album, there's lots of songs about marriage on there. It's Nice to Have a Friend references a wedding. Paper Rings quite literally says, I would marry you with paper rings. Lover, the bridge, is My Heart's Been Borrowed, Yours Has Been Blue. It's basically wedding vows. So that whole album is kind of littered with wanting to get married, planning to get married. And I think what's interesting about the Lover era is around the Lover era is when we got the Miss Americana documentary, in which Taylor says that Because she's the age 29, she feels like the Lover era is her last hurrah in pop music. She describes her last chance to be really successful while people are still tolerating her being really successful. She saw the Lover era as her big last pop foray before she maybe considers settling down and maybe getting married. That's why there are so many lyrical references to marriage within there. But then the pandemic happens in the next year, 2020, and Taylor is at home in lockdown with Joe. They start writing songs. Taylor writes songs by herself, plenty of them, and she releases the Folklore album, which is her album that has never received, no other album has ever received as much critical acclaim as that 2020 album Folklore did. She released a follow-up album, Evermore, which also received a lot of critical acclaim. And Taylor, in a way, became kind of more popular and well-liked than ever. She's the new kind of indie darling mainstream pop girl that isn't as hated as she once was from, say, 2016 to around 2019. Not many people cared too much about Taylor Swift. I know, because I was a major Swiftie during that time. I was there. A lot of people hated Taylor. They hated me. They hated You Need to Calm Down. They thought she was cringy. They didn't really want to listen to her. But then Folklore came about and everybody was like, Taylor Swift is good? Wow. And there was a lot more interest in Taylor's career at that point. She also started releasing her re-recorded Taylor's Version albums. She released Fearless Taylor's Version and Red Taylor's Version, which are re-recorded versions of two of her most popular country albums. This sort of reignited some public fascination in her, as this was a big feat in the music industry that has never been done before. Also, it brings back some of her older fans who may have fallen off after she transitioned to pop music or, again, to sort of like an alternative folk style. So at this point, 2021, Taylor is more popular than she has ever been. She has pop fans, she has alternative fans, she has country fans, and her career, in a way, is bigger than ever. She directed this short film that became super critically acclaimed as well. There's rumors that she's working on a movie. There's always been rumors that she's working on a book. She's in the middle of this huge Eras tour, which is a 3.5-hour-long show with music from her entire career. Essentially, what I'm saying is, from 2019 to now 2023, Taylor has become a lot more serious about maintaining her career into her 30s. I don't think she understood or realized or knew that the public would still want to hear music from her and see other sorts of art from her, even in her 30s. She's made several references to feeling like when you're in your 30s, as a pop star, you get thrown into an elephant graveyard. She said in one of her shows at the Eras tour, I'm 33, which is 174 in pop star years. I don't think she thought that she would continue to be this successful this far into her career. So she looks at marriage, something that she had seen upcoming as her career kind of tapered off, but her career didn't taper off. Her career continued to, if anything, exponentially accelerate. And so she looks at marriage, something that she had maybe planned on, and she says, well, now is not the time for that. My career is taking off more than it ever has. Now's not the time to settle down. So I think Midnight Rain and all of Taylor changing like Midnight Rain could, in a way, potentially be referencing that change in opinion about when she was going to get married, if she's going to get married at all. So the song says that he wanted a bride, she was making her own name. I think this song references several people throughout her entire life. As the Midnight's album does, it references several instances throughout Taylor's life and career. I think that this song references several people, including Joe, who I think after 6 years was pretty much ready to settle down. Come on, Taylor, it's time to get married. What do you think? But Taylor felt like her career is still on the up and up. And her opinion and all of her changed like midnight rain. She says, I broke his heart because he was nice. He was too soft and easy and nice and beautiful for the life that I have. And the life that Taylor Swift has is chaotic and loud and crowded by so many people who want to know every single detail about her life. It's crowded by fans who make YouTube videos talking about her song lyrics and how it connects to her life. She doesn't have a quiet, private life. And Taylor and Joe always talked about how they like to keep their relationship private. I think personally, this is my personal belief, I think that was kind of always more on Joe's end than Taylor's. I think Joe was a lot more interested in keeping the relationship private. Taylor thought it was a good idea for sure, and I think that might be a tactic she uses in her future relationships to kind of keep it more stable and steady, is to keep the relationship private. But I think that was always more Joe's thing. Joe was maybe more intimidated by the level of fame that Taylor had and the level of attention and interest there is in Taylor's life and Taylor's relationship. To put Joe through something like that is a lot, and we've heard several references of that throughout Taylor's songs. I believe Dancing with Our Hands Tied is kind of a song that explains in a way how Taylor was unwilling to bring somebody into her chaotic life. Question is a song that many people believe to be about the 2013 relationship Taylor had with Harry Styles, and I'm sure that that is possibly correct considering the Out of the Woods reference at the beginning with the "I remember," and the color I have searched for since definitely reminds me of The Rest of the World was black and white but we were in screaming color. I've heard people say that they thought it was weird at the time we all knew that Taylor and Joe were in a relationship. People thought it was kind of weird that she released Question, which is a song about a past relationship where she wants to know what happened and what's life like after their romance that was a meteor strike. I think it's kind of odd to put out a song like that while you're in a relationship with somebody else. So that's really all I have to say about Question. Is I think that might kind of be an indication possibly of Taylor looking back at her past relationships and kind of, I'm going to call it the Way I Loved You effect, as in the song The Way I Loved You from the Fearless album, where she says, he's sensible and so incredible, all my single friends are jealous, but I miss screaming and fighting and kissing in the rain. I think Question is the screaming and fighting and kissing in the rain, and I think Lavender Haze is kind of that, you know, that comfortable, sensible relationship. I just want to stay in this comfortable sensibility and not go back to that meteor strike. I'm gonna skip Vigilante Ship for today because I don't think it has any references to this relationship. We will briefly discuss Bejeweled though, because I do think it has some slight clues. She says, she starts off the song with "Baby love, I think I've been a little too kind. Didn't notice you walking all over my peace of mind in the shoes I gave you as a present. Putting someone first only works when you're in their top 5. And by the way, I'm going out tonight." I don't think that this part is necessarily about Joe, but I think it could give some indication of feeling like your efforts aren't as appreciated as maybe they should be in a relationship. But Taylor says, "Best believe I'm still bejeweled," and she says this is kind of a metaphor for her stepping back into pop music. When I walk in the room, I can still make the whole place shimmer. So Taylor naturally draws so much attention. She's such a bright and shiny person who draws eyes to her. And this is something we kind of know that probably, most likely, Joe was not comfortable with because, you know, he's a more private guy than she is. She's one of the biggest stars in the world, and he kind of likes things a little bit more quiet. But Taylor says, "And when I meet the band, they ask, 'Do you have a man?' I can still say, 'I don't remember.'" I think that's kind of maybe, it could be a reference to a few things. It could be a reference to, you know, right after a breakup. It could be a reference to, you know, maybe this couple is in the middle of an argument and Taylor doesn't know if they're even still together. Like, I don't know, maybe we're still together, I'm not sure. She says, familiarity breeds contempt. Don't put me in the basement when I want the penthouse of your heart. This part makes me think of Joe because familiarity breeds contempt. They've been together for 6 years. Maybe there's some contempt going on, especially since they spent 2 of those years in lockdown together. Don't put me in the basement when I want the penthouse of your heart. Whenever you listen to Joe being interviewed and he's asked about Taylor, he kind of brushes off the question and tries to move on as fast as possible. Taylor in interviews, when asked about Joe, she'll kind of elaborate a bit and sing his praises, but Joe kind of, in a way, keeps Taylor in the basement. He doesn't want her to be at the forefront of what he's talked about for and what he talks about. But Taylor says she wants the penthouse of his heart. She wants him to brag about her and talk about her with love, but he doesn't really. He wants to keep that more private, and that's kind of just a difference in preference, a difference in opinion, and there's obviously nothing wrong with that at all. She says, baby boy, I think I've been too good of girl. Did all the extra credit, then got graded on a curve. If we're looking at this through the Joe and Taylor lens, maybe doing all of the extra credit is working hard to keep that relationship private and secretive. But then she feels like she got graded on a curve. She feels like just because she is Taylor Swift, because she is too famous, because she does draw too much attention, she is being graded negatively, even though she did try so hard to draw as little attention as possible. She says, I think it's time to teach some lessons. I made you my world. Have you heard I can reclaim the land? That to me says, I took some time out of my career and my life to make you my world and to focus my life around loving you and us being together as a relationship. But I can reclaim the land. I can rejoin the pop world where I am the queen. I am this big, sparkly, famous, shiny, bejeweled superstar. She says, you can try to change my mind, but you might have to wait in line. You can try to change Taylor's mind about wanting to pursue her career more than she ever has. But you know what? There's a lot of people who have ideas of what Taylor should do. They have thoughts, they have opinions on what Taylor should do. And Taylor says, you know what? What's a girl gonna do? A diamond's gotta shine. I am a superstar and I'm going to be my shiniest, brightest self. Labyrinth starts off with, it only hurts this much right now, was what I was thinking the whole time. Breathe in, breathe through, breathe deep, breathe out. I'll be getting over you my whole life. This to me sounds kind of like a reflection of something that has ended. This song says, oh, I'm falling in love, but also it does say break up, break free, break through, break down. I think Labyrinth is about a lot of parts of the relationship at a lot of different times within this relationship. You know, you would break your back to make me break a smile. I'm falling in love. I thought the plane was going down. How do you turn it right around? So I think Labyrinth is kind of referring to several timestamps during this relationship and how kind of all of it is this labyrinth of difficulty, hard to navigate, unclear how the end is going to be reached, how you're going to proceed, and how you're going to continue. In Karma, the only reference we can consider to Joe is that Karma is her boyfriend. Karma is the guy on the screen coming straight home to her. So we'll skip over Karma for a second and move on to Sweet Nothing, which is the song that Taylor and Joe wrote together. Sweet Nothing on the surface is a beautiful song about how Taylor, maybe the whole world wants and needs something from her, but when she runs home to her partner, all that he wants from her is nothing, just the sweet nothings that she can whisper to him. But maybe in a way, the sweet nothing is kind of, well, nothing, as in it's not enough. It's the same all the time. She says, on the way home, I wrote a poem. You say what a mind, but this happens all the time. Maybe in a way she's looking for more than that. Now I can be reading into this, I mean honestly I'm kind of reading into this whole album, this whole video, the whole album and video here that you're watching is me reading into this, right? So I think it's possible and likely that this song is quite literal in that it's a love song about not wanting too much from each other. But I think also at the same time it could have a second double meaning about maybe kind of getting nothing from somebody, not the kind of something that maybe you were looking for. Mastermind is a song about how Taylor kind of pulled the strings of her relationship to get it to be set up and for them to come together. So that's doesn't really fit the timeline of the kind of breakup lyrics that we're trying to analyze today. So I'm gonna skip over Mastermind and move on to The Great War. Taylor starts off the song with a scene of war where she says that she tore his banners down and took the battle underground. But she says despite this great war, she reaches for his hand, and if they survive the great war, she vows not to cry anymore. She says that he drew up some good faith treaties, but she drew curtains closed, drank her poison all alone. You said I have to trust more freely. I wonder if maybe Taylor has some trust issues. That doesn't really surprise me. At the bridge, we get to, it turned into something bigger. Somewhere in the haze, maybe the lavender haze, got a sense I'd been betrayed. So Taylor very descriptively describes this near breakup, but it doesn't seem like they did break up. She says, we will never go back to the bloodshed, the crimson clover. And so this song is about surviving the Great War. It ends with, I vowed I would always be yours because we survived the Great War. So they did survive the Great War. The Great War is famously World War I. And so what we know about the Great War, aka World War I, it was known as the Great War before World War II came along, and then the Great War became World War I. So I think this song being called the Great War kind of is revealing that this wasn't the last war, sadly. Bigger Than the Whole Sky is a song about loss. Some people have said it reminds them of a loss of a pregnancy, a loss of a child, another loss, death of a loved one, or it could just be the end of a relationship. I've got a lot to pine about. I've got a lot to live without. I'm never gonna meet what could have been, would have been, what should have been you. And what if that were indeed referencing a relationship? What would have been, could have been you is the person that I need. I thought you could have been the type of person who is able to withstand the struggles of my life, but it doesn't seem like I'm ever going to meet that person that I imagined you would be at the beginning. She says, did some bird flap its wings over in Asia? Did some force take you because I didn't pray? Now, the bird flapping its wings over in Asia refers to, the butterfly effect. Something as simple as a butterfly or a bird flapping its wings can change every single domino effect of things down the line. Did some force take you because I didn't pray? This song, to me, if it was about the loss of a romantic relationship, it's about, something in this relationship changed. I didn't do something, maybe it was just a bird flapping its wings. Maybe it was nothing at all. Maybe two people just grow apart for really no reason other than that's just how it works sometimes. We're gonna skip over Paris because that's a cute little love song and I don't see any breakup related lyrics in there. The song after that is High Infidelity, which many people believe to be about Calvin Harris. And I think that is possible. We have discussed in this video that since folklore, some songs have been about multiple subjects, though I don't see any lyrics in this song that stand out to me as being very Joe. So I'm just gonna say this is mainly like a Calvin Harris, Tom Hiddleston kind of segment, and we're gonna move on from that one and go on to Glitch. Glitch, we start off in the first verse saying, we were supposed to be just friends. You don't live in my part of town, aka you live in London, but maybe I'll see you depending what kind of mood, situationship I'm in. And you know what's in my system? Have I had anything to drink? Then she says, there's been a glitch. 5 seconds later, I'm fastening myself to you with a stitch. She says, I'm not even sorry, nuts are so starry, blood moonlit. Blood moon is literary wise meant to mean a bad omen. It must be counterfeit. I think there's been a glitch. We move on to the second verse. I was supposed to sweat you out in search of glorious happenings of happenstance on someone else's playground. I was supposed to, you know, move on from you, let us have our fling in the past and move on to somebody else's, you know, playground. But it's been 2,190 days of our love blackout. That's 6 years. The system's breaking down. The system that has held us through this blackout for 6 years is changing. It's breaking down. I think there's been a glitch. Brief interruption, a slight malfunction. I'd go back to wanting dudes who give nothing. I thought we had no chance, and that's romance. Let's dance. So maybe, in a way, yes, this is about a glitch of a situationship gone serious relationship, but also in the second verse, there's a bit of a glitch of the relationship itself working out, and there's a reference to Taylor maybe even needing to go back to dudes who give nothing. We're gonna skip over would've, could've, should've because we all know that's about John Mayer, and we're going to move on to Dear Reader. Dear Reader, most of the song I think analyzes kind of the 2016 apocalypse kind of sense of if it feels like a trap, you're already in one. Don't let somebody set you up to look bad. And if you need to run, just run. Desert your past lives, don't look back. And also, never take advice from someone who's falling apart. Now, Taylor then says, Dear Reader, the greatest of luxuries is your secrets. I think this is something Taylor learned throughout her relationship with Joe, in that keeping the relationship private is kind of what kept it alive. Though, in the bridge, she says, I wander through these nights. I prefer hiding in plain sight. She says, you wouldn't take my word if you knew who was talking, if you knew where I was walking. To a house, not a home, all alone, because nobody's there. So nobody's there. Maybe I can imagine Dear Reader being written after the Midnight's album was kind of finished off, and maybe the breakup and the unraveling to Joe maybe started to take place. Maybe they kind of separated for a bit, and Taylor had to go home by herself, and she wanted to address the listeners of this Midnight's album. Listen, you know, some of these songs may seem like I'm in love, but you wouldn't take my word if you knew who was talking. This is coming from someone who is still walking home alone at the end of the day. She says you should find another guiding light. You should listen to someone else for advice, because, I mean, after all this, I mean, why would you take my advice? Why would you listen to someone who's falling apart, who's had yet another failed relationship? I say, Taylor, listen. 6 years is pretty darn successful, okay? Don't you dare think of that relationship as a failure. Every relationship and every person we encounter in our lives is there to teach us something. They're there for a reason. They're there for us to grow and to learn. And never think of an ended relationship as a failure, because it's just a stepping stone onto whatever the relationship you're meant to be in will be. There's one more song that I want to look at the lyrics of, and that is Hits Different. She says, I washed my hands of us at the club. You made a mess of me. I pictured you with other girls in love and threw up on the street. Basically, the entirety of this song, Taylor's kind of being a messy drunk who had been in love but lost that love. Her friends try to convince her that love is a lie to, you know, get her through this troubling time. And, you know, Taylor's been through breakups before. She's been through failed relationships and whatnot, but this one hits different because it was successful for the 6 years. It's different because she used to switch out Kens. She used to be with them for a year or less, most of them like 3 months. She'd just go, strip the band-aid off, skip town, and it felt like freedom. But now the sun burns her heart and the sand hurts her feelings. If she tries to run from this, it's not the same. It hits different with this person. This person sends her into the catastrophic blues. She tries to find the artifacts. She tries to analyze what went wrong, but she needs to curse the space that she needed. She needs to trace the evidence and make it make some sense. What happened? You were the one that I loved. What went on? This is why you shouldn't get rid of the main guy. What the heck? So then what I really like about the bridge, kind of like the verse 3 of this, where she says, I heard your key turn in the door down the hallway. Is that your key in the door? Is it okay? Is it you? Or have they come to take me away? To take me away, you know, to some like mental institution because I've gone crazy, I guess. But you know what? Love is a lie. And it hits different. I'm going to be in these catastrophic blues. Moving on was easy for me to do, but now it's not easy and it hits different. And, you know, if this breakup rumor is indeed true and Joe and Taylor did indeed break up, I can see how this breakup hits totally different than any other breakup she's ever been through before. What do you guys think about how the Midnight's lyrics changed in meaning to you ever since you heard of this breakup news? Again, it's technically a rumor, but I think it's most likely true at this point. I feel like we would have heard otherwise if it wasn't true. Looking back on Midnight's, it makes me think that, you know, there were some signs that maybe the relationship was headed a bit south, but you never know. I mean, I guess there's always a chance that they could get back together, or Taylor could find the person that is right for her. I think no matter what, I trust Taylor to always do what's right for herself. She's a very smart person, and I think she will find the person that is right for her no matter what. And Taylor, if somehow, for some reason, you are watching this, even though I don't think you would have because you don't watch stuff about your relationships, but if you're watching, Taylor, I just want to say, I love you. We all love you. And we care about your relationship because we care about you. And we want you to be okay. And we care about your music, which is why we are discussing your music here today on my video. I don't want you to think that I want to exploit you or anything like that. I hope you're doing well. I just wanted to share my thoughts on your beautiful, wonderful lyrics on your beautiful, wonderful album Midnight's, and I wanted to talk about that. So please, if you're watching this, Taylor or anyone else, leave a wonderful comment. Please keep it nice. Don't say anything mean about Taylor or this video. If you want to say things that are mean, go somewhere else and do that. But thank you so much for watching. My name is Allison. I make pop music videos. I make a lot of Swiftie content. And yes, you saw it. I talk about my opinions. So if you like Taylor, you like pop music, and you like my opinions, you like to hear me talk, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and let me know if you want to hear me analyze any more Taylor lyrics or any other lyrics from any other artists. I am open to suggestions. Just let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye.